The storm outside was nothing compared to the storm brewing inside the heart of Ethan Caldwell, the notoriously feared billionaire CEO of Caldwell Enterprises. That evening, the upscale restaurant in downtown Chicago glowed with warm golden light, but his sudden entrance shattered the calm like a glass dropped on marble. His employees had already warned the staff that their boss was in one of his worst moods. The moment Ethan stepped inside, drenched in rain and rage, the entire atmosphere tightened. He lifted his chin, surveyed the room sharply, and with a voice colder than the wind outside, demanded that everyone inside leave immediately, customers, staff, everyone, without offering a single explanation. The restaurant fell silent, tense, and trembling. If you believe kindness still has power to change people, please like, comment, share, and subscribe. It truly helps us continue bringing stories that touch hearts. Within minutes, chaos rippled. Plates were abandoned mid-meal, conversations halted, and murmurs filled the room as people hurried out. But there was one person who didn't move, a small girl in a pink raincoat with curly brown hair, sitting with her widowed mother. She looked up at Ethan with innocent eyes full of confusion, not fear. Her mother tried to gather their belongings, whispering for her to stand, but the child stared at the tall man who had taken away everyone's peace. Ethan didn't even register her presence at first. He was too consumed with anger, frustration, and the crushing pressure of a life he had built, but no longer recognized. But the little girl's soft voice broke through the tension like sunlight through dark clouds. She stood on her tiny feet, clutched her half-finished glass of orange juice, and said something no one in the restaurant had ever dared to tell the billionaire. She told him to apologize, not loudly, not rudely, simply and sincerely, as if she were reminding a friend about good manners. The entire restaurant froze, the few remaining staff members staring at her, as if she had stepped into a lion's cage. Ethan's stern expression flickered, confused, almost startled that someone had spoken to him, challenged him. And in that single moment, none of them knew that this girl, Lily Martin, would change his life more than any contract, fortune, or deal ever had. Ethan's jaw tightened. He was a man who had spent years commanding entire industries. Apologizing was not part of his vocabulary, especially not to a crowd he had just ordered around. But Lily didn't sit down. She didn't look away. She simply studied him with the honesty only a child could possess. The truth was, Ethan's life had been collapsing quietly behind the scenes. That day, he had lost a multi-million-dollar deal, his father had been rushed to the hospital, and the media had published a harsh article tearing his reputation apart. He was exhausted, empty, and furious with everything, including himself. And in that broken state, he had walked into the restaurant seeking solitude and control. He expected compliance, not compassion. As he stared at Lily, something softened deep within him, something he didn't want others to see. But years of emotional walls kept him rigid. Without responding, he walked past her, heading toward the private hall. Yet her words lingered behind him like a shadow. The restaurant emptied save for Lily, her mother, and a trembling waiter named Jacob who didn't want to lose his job by leaving before being dismissed. Lily's mother apologized profusely to Jacob, but he whispered that it wasn't their fault. Meanwhile, Ethan sat alone at a corner table, buried his face in his hands and breathed deeply, fighting the heaviness sitting on his chest. A few minutes later, Lily slipped away from her mother and walked toward him. She slid into the chair opposite him without asking. Ethan looked up sharply, ready to scold the intrusion, but stopped when he saw her expression, calm, gentle, and curious. She simply asked if he was sad. No one had asked him that in years. Not his employees, not his board members, not even his friends, if he still had any. People saw power when they looked at him, not pain. Ethan didn't respond, but a crack formed in his stoic exterior. Lily told him that whenever her dad was sad, before he passed away, he used to take deep breaths and count to 5 because it helped him feel less stormy on the inside. The words struck Ethan more deeply than she could ever understand. Her father had died a year earlier, Lily's mother later explained as she rushed over to apologize for her daughter's boldness. But Ethan shook his head. For the first time, he invited them to stay. Lily continued to talk, sharing innocent stories about her school, her love for drawing, and how she believed grown-ups sometimes forgot how to be gentle. As she chatted, Ethan found himself listening with genuine interest, something he hadn't done in a long time. Lily's presence was like the warmth he hadn't felt since childhood, a warmth he had buried under ambition and success. But the pivotal moment came when Lily said she believed everyone deserved kindness, even angry people, because maybe they were hurting deep down. The words cut straight through him. That night, Ethan did something he had not done since his early 20s. He cried quietly, hiding behind his hands as Lily's mother pretended not to notice. The pressure, the loneliness, the regret, all of it poured out silently. Lily simply placed her tiny hand on his wrist and told him it was okay to be sad. The restaurant staff had gathered near the door, hesitant and confused. They had no idea what had changed. The man who had stormed in like a hurricane was now sitting with a small child who was teaching him how to breathe again. Finally, Ethan stood. He walked toward the restaurant center, took a deep breath, and apologized. Not just to Lily and her mother, but to the staff still lingering at the door. He admitted he had been wrong, that he had acted out of pain, not authority. His words shocked everyone. Ethan Caldwell had never apologized publicly in his entire career. Jacob, the waiter, nodded respectfully, visibly relieved. Several staff members softened, understanding that even the powerful break sometimes. But Lily wasn't done. She insisted he apologize properly, standing straighter, speaking slower, and making it sound like he meant it. And he did. The restaurant filled with a strange, comforting warmth as Ethan repeated it with sincerity. After that, Ethan asked Jacob to bring dessert. For everyone. The restaurant slowly reopened, and a few families returned, curious about the transformation. Ethan bought dinner for all of them. The atmosphere became lively again, filled with conversation and light instead of fear. Lily and her mother, Grace Martin, stayed a bit longer. Grace was a nurse, working 2 jobs since her husband's passing, and raising Lily alone. Ethan learned about their struggles, the long nights, and Lily's resilience despite her grief. Something inside him shifted even deeper. He offered to drive them home because the storm had worsened. Grace refused politely at first, but after seeing the weather worsen, she accepted. The car ride was surprisingly calm. Lily fell asleep against her mother's shoulder, and Ethan found himself admiring Grace's strength. Over the next few weeks, Ethan couldn't forget them. Their kindness lingered like a soft echo. He started visiting the same restaurant again. Calm, completely changed. Each time he hoped he might see Lily and Grace again, and slowly, he did. Ethan began offering help quietly, paying for Lily's school art supplies anonymously, donating to the clinic Grace worked at, and making sure they had resources without feeling indebted. Grace eventually found out, but instead of anger, she offered gratitude. A friendship blossomed naturally, neither forced nor rushed. As months passed, Ethan repaired long-broken relationships in his life. He reconnected with his estranged sister, visited his father more often, treated his employees with newfound compassion, and even created a mental health program at his company because he finally understood what silent suffering felt like. But the most profound change was in his heart. Lily, with her simple words and brave honesty, had taught him something millions of dollars never could, that kindness heals in ways power never will. One evening at that same restaurant where everything had begun, Ethan hosted a small gathering. The place was warm again, glowing with soft lights, laughter, and peace. Grace and Lily sat across from him. Lily, now more talkative and cheerful than ever, handed Ethan a small drawing of him smiling, a rarity before they met. Ethan hung the drawing in his office the next day. But before the evening ended, Ethan stood up and made a quiet announcement to the people gathered there, thanking them for being part of his journey toward becoming a better man. He looked at Lily as he said it. She beamed, proud of her student. If this story touched your heart, please like, comment, and share the video. Your support helps us tell more meaningful stories like this one. Before the final closing, here is a special request. Please comment below. What one act of kindness changed your life? Your words might inspire someone today. That night when Ethan walked out of the restaurant with Grace and Lily, He felt something he hadn't felt in years: hope. Not the shallow hope that came with business success, but the deep, grounding hope that came from being seen, understood, and forgiven by people who owed him nothing.